Hello, my name is Billy Collett and I am here to answer questions on why it is good for athletes to have good interaction with the media and good, clear communication in their chosen sport. There are 7 different types of media. This can range from television, radio, internet and newspapers. These are all seen daily by millions, perhaps even billions of people worldwide. This means that it is extremely crucial for athletes and sportsmen all alike, anyone involved in the sports industry, to have good presentation, good clear language and sets a good image for themselves in the media. Athletes, to avoid any negative feedback from an interview, are even given courses by their clubs for this reason, so they have the skills to perform a good interview. To have a good and effective interview which reflects positively on the team and the club that they represent or the nation. All types of media are different, and so there are different questions and answers towards different types of interviews. The audience are always different and they will always ask different questions. This means the athlete has to adapt his answers towards the audience to help get the point across. For instance, towards other professional athletes, they need to use technical terms and statistics to help their point sound more proven and more technical. Towards children, they need to make the language and terms more simple. So when they're talking to, after a match on, say on TV on Match of the Day, you hear managers saying how they dominated the game, and you can see it through the possession stats of 60% to 40, or they dominated the game through shots by having 12 shots and 6 on target, and the opponents only had 3 and 2 on target. Towards children, they just need to they will just carry out the basis of, we controlled the game. We feel like we should have won the game. Just keep it nice and basic so that children can understand what they are talking about. Media can be from, again, Match of the Day interviews or to exclusives at a training pitch. Television is the most seen visual media. Billions of people watch television every day, and with a massive variety of sports on show 24/7, any and all athletes can become victims of the media. The media can not only affect the way people see you as a person, but it can also have a huge effect on your career and lead to major fines, bans and suspensions. A showing of this was in the 2014 World Cup, where Uruguay played Italy. Luis Suarez was seen biting Giorgio Chiellini, the Italian captain, and for this he received a 13-match ban, along with several fines. On top of, if he was to sign for Barcelona, he would need to see a counsellor. Radio is another form of media, as it is widely listened to by, again, billions of people across the world. This can have a massive effect on your career, as your actions are widely spread and distributed, meaning you cannot avoid or get away with anything, as you are always in the public eye 24/7. Radio interviews consist of just language. As the audience can only hear you, not see you, this means that your language and questions need to be organised and prepared to avoid slang and swear words, as well as sentence fillers to avoid a bad image and vocabulary. So, athletes always sound more professional when they are capable of not having to delay their answers, where they are able to say, we controlled the match through this many shots on target, instead of, I feel that it just sounds a lot more better, and it shows them as more of an educated individual and reflects more positively on them. Newspapers are another form of massively distributed media across the globe. The back page of near enough all newspapers in the UK are sport based. The majority to near all the time, the sport is football that dominates the back page of the paper. Although newspapers don't always include such factual news and just try to catch you out, it can still have an effect on your image and your career. For example, Jack Wilshere was spotted smoking on a night out, and this was widely distributed across the media and went viral all over the internet. For this, he got a massive fine from Arsenal, and he missed several games until Arsene Wenger felt he was back to full match fitness. The same occurred with his teammate Wojciech Szczesny, who also received several fines and a match ban. Internet is linked to the television as many channels and internet traffic include television. For example, BBC iPlayer is an example of television being broadcasted onto the internet, especially programmes like Match of the Day. Any sport and near all sports are televised, and so this means all athletes need to be on their best behaviour, well dressed, and need to watch their language. The purpose of doing an interview is to boost your career and image as well as make money and give the club a good reputation. It helps to get your image across and it increases public opinion as well as boosts your status. It is good to help getting your point across on a match and a decision. Although sports athletes do want to be professional footballers, sometimes they need to have a backup plan or a plan B. For example, our athlete we will be using today, his name is Brandon Verschuren. Brandon plays football, and like every other child probably in England, he wants to be a professional footballer. However, his career backup plan is to be a sports marketer. This is his backup plan for if he does not become a professional footballer. He's already prioritised his backup career by enrolling at Bournemouth University doing a course on sports management. His course costs around £7,250 per year, where he will study for 4 years. It is always good for an athlete to have a backup career plan, for instance with Jermaine Genius, where he played for Tottenham Hotspurs for several years, but he was constantly going through injury after injury, and so in turn he ended his career and decided to become a sports pundit, where he is now on shows such as Match of the Day. Other athletes that have used this sort of tactic to their advantage to have a backup plan are also people like Gary Neville, who has come out of playing football himself, not through injury, but through age, and has gone on to manage a team such as Valencia. It's a nice way to just ensure that you have job security when you do not feel 100% that you can carry on playing as a footballer. Goal setting for Brandon is that his short-term goal is to get into his university. His medium term is to gain a work placement to gain more experience and to hopefully travel abroad. His long-term goal is to pass and earn his degree and get a job in sports marketing. A SWOT analysis happens to all athletes and all players. Strengths: what the athlete is good at in their sport. This is technically what they are known for. For example, David Beckham was known as a free kick taker and a free kick maestro as well as crossing. Messi is known for scoring the most goals due to his unbelievable record at Barcelona. Weaknesses are what the athlete needs to work on or to improve. For instance, after Wilshere was caught smoking, he needed to improve his fitness to fit with the speed of the Premier League. Opportunities: what and how they can get into football at a higher level. There are constantly more opportunities for athletes these days, as they are always adapting ways to get into a higher level. Not only can you participate at the lowest level, where you pay to play for a team, there are always other teams that are higher that are looking to scout and to find the next best thing. Opportunities include football tryouts for teams such as Nottingham Forest, Chelsea. Every single professional team usually has either a scout or possibly a trial day. The potential threats to his career, such as illness and injury. Athletes can have many threats. For example, illness and injury. A really famous one that happened in the past few years to two world-class footballers was Radamel Falcao and Franck Ribéry. Both of them played fantastically in the 2013-14 season leading up to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Unfortunately, Falcao and Franck Ribéry both sustained an injury that left them out for several months, meaning that they could not represent their team at the international level in the biggest tournament for football on the planet. Franck Ribéry has only just returned to his given sport this year after nearly a year and a half out. Technical skills are the techniques that they can perform. So passing is represented through players such as Xavi or Iniesta, free kicks, Beckham. There are also practical skills in sports, which is such as teaching, coaching and instructing. This is where a player can also help his team, but also the coaches are able to instruct and teach the athlete how to become better and to perform a certain technique or practical skill better. Key skills in sport are IT skills, communication and working in teams. This helps to create sport. This helps to enhance sport cohesion as the team are able to communicate clearly and helpful with each other. IT skills helps through the basis of doing, again, a SWOT analysis or finding out strengths and weaknesses of practical and technical skills of a player. Basic skills, literacy and numeracy. This is where it's helpful for the player to also be able to do the math as well, to understand what they need to improve on, how they can improve on it, and literacy so they're able to read and see what the manager wants them to do, how they feel they've performed. Most sports athletes keep diaries to say on how they feel they performed over games and how they have performed over training. For Brandon, his SWOT analysis were his strengths were his cardiovascular fitness, his curled shooting and crossing, and his passing and his agility. His weaknesses were his strength, his heading, and he is also quite injury prone. His opportunities are he currently plays on a Sunday for AFC Revolution where he plays in midfield. How he can improve and go to a higher level is he can go to open trials to try and get into a higher level, and he can attend and join other teams to push himself and become a better footballer. His threats are that Brandon is very injury prone and has a very poor diet and sleeping pattern. Short-term goal. His short-term goal is to play and win the league or gain promotion for his team AFC Revolution. His medium term is to join a higher level of football, for example Ryman League, which is national and semi-professional, where they are paid to play football. Long term is to go on to conference or higher and become a full-time footballer and earn a living from it. This is where they are financially stable enough to only do football. Strength. A way that Brandon can improve on his strength and his weakness is through going to the gym and doing weight work. His gradual and progressive overload will mean that he will be able to build muscle bulk. He will need to also increase his calorie and carbohydrate intake to help him build muscle and weight healthily, and to improve in muscular tone and strength, to increase and enhance his weight mass and in turn his strength. Another weakness of Brandon's is his heading ability. This is not only because Brandon is a fairly small player, but he also cannot jump very high. A way that Brandon can increase his heading ability is by not only increasing his ability to physically head the ball and improve placement, he needs to increase his strength to improve his jump height, to increase his distance that he can reach, to outjump a player of a taller stature than Brandon. Now, the purpose of doing an interview as an athlete is also to help improve your social image and to help improve the image of a team. For example, athletes will have a good and positive, clear interview after a game when they have won. So it is a nice way for a player to reflect on his team's performance and how he feels he did and his coach. This can be very helpful as it helps to boost the image of that player, and it also helps to boost the image of the club. Athletes are required to do many different interviews, for example stemming from TV to radio to newspapers and to even the internet. Many of them, however, are based on television. Now here they are required to dress correctly, have their language exquisite and their grammar. Their speech pattern needs to be near perfect so that people can understand what they are saying and also keep track with what they are saying. The different types of interviews are, with the TV, they are more visually seen, so their body language, the way they dress, the way they speak, all of it is on show for the world to see. This means they have to be extremely careful in the way they present themselves and their club, as it can have a massive negative effect on them. Another way that they can do an interview is through radio. Although the audience cannot see their body image, their body language, their dress style, they can always hear their voice. So whereas you should never try sarcasm in an interview because it may go down well with some people but not others, and this can reflect badly on you because people do not understand the point you are trying to get across. Again, in a radio interview, they need to keep their sentences clear, sharp, and to the point to avoid babbling on and taking up the time. The way they can communicate effectively is by planning for the interview. They can have notes with them, they can even have cue cards, they can have a written script for them. Another way that they can be effective with communicating with the media is through their dress sense, by dressing in a nice suit or in your team's tracksuit, just anything better than just looking scruffy and unhygienic. So by being clean shaven, having your hair done nicely, etc., etc. It is important for athletes to plan for interviews, because if they do not, they can end up having a very bad image on themselves and their sports team. For example, Micah Richards, after he scored a goal for Manchester City in, I think it was the 2008 season, after the interview, where he was a fairly young player, I think he was around 19, 20 years old, after scoring the winning goal, he swore immediately in his interview after 5 seconds. And this reflected badly on him because it made him look illiterate, and it made him look like a sort of self-centred, jealous player, because he wasn't thinking about the team and just thinking about himself. It is also important because it can help boost your career further by drawing in clubs' attention to you as a player and to you as a person from the public. It is important to plan your career of being a footballer, as well as it is important to plan a backup career. The reason it is important to plan your career is because you need to have a short, medium and long-term goal. If you just have a short-term goal, then there is no immediate action for a medium or a long-term goal. A long-term goal for Brandon, again, would be to become a professional footballer, but in turn he needs to take many smaller steps and many medium steps to reach that long-term goal. It is also clever to plan a backup plan, because if your sporting career does not fall through, then you do not have a correct background or qualifications to go into a good university or college. So whereas Brandon has planned his backup career a lot more carefully than his football career, it means that Brandon is now predominantly going to be performing his backup career at Bournemouth University. Goal setting and SWOT analysis, I have already explained. They help an athlete to plan for their career, as it will allow them to help with technical and practical skills within their chosen sport, and it will also allow them to find their weaknesses so they can improve further and become a better player. Their opportunities help them with finding a better team, challenging themselves and becoming a much higher stature of a player. And the threats to injury, by planning, so say if you know you're injury prone, you know to take the relevant steps towards avoiding that injury. For example, if a goalkeeper, such as Hugo Lloris, in pre-season to this current season of the 2015-16 season, he broke a knuckle in pre-season. For this, he spent 3 months out, but also wrapped up his fingers to help support after the break. So once he returned to training and playing for matches for Tottenham Hotspur, he continued to tape up his hand to help secure and create a bit more strength and resistance towards to stop that injury. A strategy that the athlete could use to improve weakness and threat is, again, by just taking a risk assessment and understanding what might happen and how to avoid that potentially. For example, many footballers wear shin pads to avoid breaking their leg or bruised shins, etc., etc., ankle injuries. An athlete may need to go into a backup career. Again, for example, my earlier reason was Jermaine Genius. Through injury and missing several seasons and most of his career, he retired and went on to become a matchday pundit. Another player who is quite world famous at the moment, his name is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He is currently the Swedish captain and the captain at a team, Paris Saint-Germain. He's recently come to the end of his contract at the age of 33 after becoming the League One highest scorer for Paris Saint-Germain. However, because the club is allowing his contract to run out, it means he needs to have now a backup plan for the end of the season to understand what team he wants to go to and how to get into that team. Another reason for why an athlete may need a backup career is through retirement. The biggest, most famous example of this was a goalkeeper called David James. He spent many years playing in the Premier League and made the most appearances as a goalkeeper, and also held the clean sheet record until this season. However, due to his retirement and his waste of money as a player, he went into bankruptcy and has been declared it twice. This means that he has now had to have a backup career as another matchday pundit. For another career in sport, but a backup plan for Brandon is to go to university and follow up a career in sports marketing. This is where he wants to be able to control a team's financial advertisements, as he also does BTEC Level 3 business studies. So he would like to be able to control a club's income and outcome. The way he is doing this is he has enrolled at Bournemouth University doing a sports marketing course for the next 4 years. With this, it will take him £7,250 per year over the course of the 4 years to understand how to perform that role and to earn his degree. He will then go on from there to have a work placement in America, he hopes, and which will allow him to have more experience in sport marketing, so he can, when he eventually comes back to the UK and finishes his degree, that he can start applying for jobs in sport marketing. There are several barriers in an athlete's career. One could be injury, one could be their height, one could be a mental or physical disability. However, many of these barriers can be beaten through training and through heart for the sport. For example, many rugby players and basketball players that become paralysed due to horrific accidents can go into wheelchair rugby and basketball. Many footballers also go into coaching or, again, become matchday pundits or journalists for their chosen sport. Another barrier that could stop them in a backup plan is by not having the correct qualifications to gain acceptance to a university or to a given job. For example, many jobs now require not only experience but also certain qualifications. Many universities do not accept students that have less than an equivalent C grade in GCSE English. IT skills in this day and age are also very important, as it is very crucial that you are able to perform many tasks such as sending an email, creating a PowerPoint, using Word document. In some aspects of sport, in physiotherapy, many athletes need to have a A-level biology background to understand the muscular and skeletal structure of the human body. Another could be a barrier is their money, that they are financially unable to support themselves and to pay for that given qualification. However, many of these can be overdone by working part-time whilst you go to uni. Many can be done through bursary, where you are the college or university give you money to allow you to study. There are many other barriers. In Brandon's case, his height is a weakness. Because he only measures at about 5'6", this leaves him at a massive disadvantage, especially in playing midfield. When it comes to heading, he is up against most likely a taller player, which means he has more ground to cover in the air. However, this can be overdone through, again, strength training and increasing his jump so he can increase his height and aerial dominance. This is the end of my sports interview on why athletes need to be clear and have good communication and representation in the media.